The self is not this, not that, which in Sanskrit is neti, neti. The self is not this, not that, precisely because it is the pure witness of this or that, and thus, in all cases, transcends any this and any that. The self cannot even be said to be one, for that is just another quality, another object that is perceived or witnessed. The self is not spirit. Rather, it is that which right now is witnessing that concept. The self is not the witness. That is just another word or concept. And the self is that which is witnessing that concept. The self is not emptiness. The self is not a pure self, and so on. There are neither good nor bad qualities in the self. The self is free from all qualities. Qualities pertain to the mind only. It is beyond quality. If there is unity, there will also be duality. The numerical one gives rise to other numbers. The truth is neither one nor two. It is as it is. People want to see the self as something. They desire to see it as a blazing light, etc. But how could that be? The self is not light, not darkness, not any observed thing. The self is ever the witness. It is eternal and remains the same all along. Ramana Maharshi often refers to the self by the I, since the self is the simple witness of even the ordinary I. We are all, says Ramana, perfectly aware of the I, for we are all aware of our capacity to witness in the present moment, but we mistake the pure I, or pure seer with some sort of object that can be seen, and is thus precisely not the seer or the true self, but is merely some sort of memory, or image, or identity, or self-concept, all of which are objects, none of which is the witness of objects. We identify the I with this or that I, and thus identified with a mere finite and temporal object, we suffer the slings and arrows of all the finite objects, whereas the self remains ever as it is, timeless, eternal, unborn, unwavering, undying, ever and always present. The I is always there. There is no knowing it as an object. It is not a new knowledge acquired. The I is always there. There is no one who even for thrice fails to experience the self. In deep sleep you exist. Awake you remain. The same self is in both states. The difference is only in the awareness and the non-awareness of the world. The world rises with the mind and sets with the mind. That which rises and sets is not the self. The individual is miserable because he confounds the mind and the body with the self. It is the nature of the mind to wander, but you are not the mind. The mind springs up and sinks down. It is impermanent, transitory, whereas you are eternal. There is nothing but the self. To abide as the self is the thing. Never mind the mind. If the mind source is sought, the mind will vanish, leaving the self unaffected. Ramana therefore counsels us to seek the source of the mind, to look for that which is aware of the mental or personal I, for that is the transpersonal I, unchanged by the fluctuations of any particular states, particular objects, particular circumstances, particular births, particular deaths. Tracing the source of I, the primal I alone remains over, and it is inexpressible. The seat of realization is within, and the seeker cannot find it as an object outside of himself. That seat is bliss, and is the core, the ultimate depth of all beings. Hence, it is called the heart. The mind now sees itself diversified as the universe. If the diversity is not manifest, it remains in its own essence, its original state, and that is the heart. Entering the heart means remaining without distractions, objects. The heart is the only reality. The mind is only a transient phase. To remain as oneself is to enter the heart. The self is not born, nor does it die. The sage sees everything in the self. There is no diversity in it. If a man thinks that he is born and cannot avoid the fear of death, let him find out if the self has any birth. He will discover that the self always exists, that the body, which is born, resolves itself into thought, and that the emergence of thought is the root of all mischief. Find the source of thought, then you will abide in the ever-present inmost self and be free from the idea of birth and the fear of death. As one pursues this self-inquiry into the source of thoughts, into the source of I and the world, one enters a state of pure empty awareness, free of all objects whatsoever, which in Vedanta is known as Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirvikalpa means without any qualities or objects. In awareness, there's perfect clarity, perfect consciousness, but the entire manifest world, up to and including the subtle, simply ceases to arise, and one is directly introduced to what Meister Eckhart called the naked existence of Godhead. Sir Ramana, if you hold to the self, remain as witness in all circumstances. There is no second. When you see the world, you have lost hold of the self. On the contrary, hold the self, and the world will not appear. By unswerving, vigilant constancy in the self, ceaseless, like the unbroken flow of water, is generated the natural or changeless state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which readily and spontaneously yields that direct, immediately, unobstructed, and universal perception of Brahman, which transcends all time and space. For Ramana and Eckhart, and not them alone, the casual is a type of ultimate omega point. As the source of all manifestation, it is the goal of all development. Ramana, this is self-realization, and thereby is cut asunder the knot of the heart, the separate self-sense. This is the limitless bliss of liberation, beyond doubt and duality. To realize this state of freedom from duality is the summum bonum of life. and he alone that has won it is a Jivamuktu, the liberated one while yet alive, and not he who has merely a theoretical understanding of the self or the desired end and aim of all human behavior. The disciple is then enjoined to remain in the beatitude of Ahman, Brahman. I is absolute.